A wealthy businessman was bemused to see a fisherman sitting beside his boat playing alongside a small child. "Why aren't you out fishing?" asked the businessman. "Because I caught enough fish for one day," replied the fisherman. "Why don't you catch some more?" "What would I do with them?" asked the fisherman. "You could earn more money," said the businessman. "Then with the extra money you could buy a bigger boat, go out into deeper water, catch more fish, then you can make more money, then you could buy more nets, and with those nets you could catch even more fish and make even more money, and with that money you could own 2 boats, maybe even 3 boats. Eventually you could have a whole fleet of boats and be rich like me." "Then what would I do?" asked the fisherman. "Then," said the businessman, "you could really enjoy life." The fisherman looked at the businessman quizzically and asked, "What do you think I'm doing now?" "If I could wave a magic wand and grant you either one of 2 gifts, the first, £1 billion, the second, happiness, but the catch is you can't have both, what would you choose? £1 billion, but you wouldn't be happy? Or happiness, but you wouldn't be rich?" No-brainer, right? You pick happiness. Why? Because nearly everyone agrees that happiness is the one thing we all want. We don't say, "What good is it to be happy if it doesn't make you rich?" But we do say, "What good is it to be rich if it doesn't make you happy?" Clearly then, the question we're considering in this talk, the question of happiness, is of vital relevance to all of us. Indeed, according to the ancient philosopher Cicero, the question of happiness was the most important question in all of philosophy because it's the one thing, as I said, we all agree we all want. And that means any world belief worth its salt ought to have something helpful to say about it, including Christianity. And so we're going to explore together just what the Bible does have to say about this perpetually relevant question, especially towards the second half of this talk. But before we do, I want to lay a bit of groundwork and reflect upon some of the ways in which we think about and talk about happiness today as a society. Now, in terms of defining it, what is happiness? It's not as easy as you might think because the English word happiness usually means a subjective satisfaction. So that in modern English, if you feel happy, you are happy. But ancient understandings of happiness, on the other hand, such as the Greek word eudaimonia, usually meant something like an objective state of human flourishing, a state of living in accordance with the goal or the purpose of a human being. And interestingly, the technical definition of happiness today from a social science perspective tries to capture both the subjective and the objective element to happiness when it defines happiness as a sense of being happy in your life and of being happy with your life. As Yale professor of psychology Laurie Santos explains, being happy in your life is about experiencing lots of positive emotions of happiness like contentment, peace, exhilaration, or awe. And being happy with your life is being satisfied with your life from a more objective standpoint. You think your life's pretty good relative to your vision of what a flourishing human life is. So for example, a mother with a newborn baby might not be experiencing happiness in her life because she is subjectively experiencing feelings of fatigue and exhaustion from sleep deprivation. But she may still nonetheless be experiencing happiness with her life if being a mother forms part of her vision of what an objectively good life looks like for her. Now, since happiness is a subject that we've been studying as human beings for quite some time now, you might expect we would have figured out how to find it. Yet how much of our modern life is characterized instead by dissatisfaction, boredom, frustration, stress, and fatigue? To quote the Twitter sphere, many of us are spending too much, drinking too much, submitting to anger, eating unhealthy food, consuming caffeine throughout the day, taking pills to ease the pain, pipelining social media at night while ignoring other people, working too much, and yes, even working out too much. So what's going on? Why does happiness continue to be so elusive for so many? Well, at least one thing seems to be clear from the social sciences, and that is that material wealth alone is an insufficient basis for finding happiness. According to research by Angus Deaton, the 2015 Nobel laureate in economics, and subsequent research on the subject, once your salary is high enough to live reasonably comfortably but not extravagantly, any dollar above that salary won't make you significantly happier. In other words, money alone can't buy you happiness. Yes, it can make you incredibly stressed and anxious if you don't have it, but it can't guarantee happiness if you do. At a party given by a billionaire in New York, the writer Kurt Vonnegut turned to his good friend and fellow writer Joseph Heller and informed him that their host had made more money in a single day as a hedge fund manager than Heller had earned from his popular novel Catch-22 over its whole history. Heller's response was, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." Why is it that however much money or wealth in life we have, it seems, it is rarely, if ever, enough? Well, as the psychologist Abraham Maslow identified years ago with his famous Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once you've met your basic material needs for food and shelter and safety as a human being, it becomes all about meeting the non-material needs that we have as well, our needs for belonging, acceptance, self-esteem and self-actualization. If you recall, Maslow's 5-stage pyramid list of basic human needs, at the bottom of the pyramid are our basic needs for food and drink and shelter and warmth. Above that are our basic needs for safety and stability and security. Above that are our needs for love and belonging. And then above that, our needs for esteem. And this one's interesting because you've got your need for self-esteem, which you get if you, in yourself, believe you've achieved a certain level of mastery or independence in life. But you also have the need for the esteem of others, to be accepted and valued, to receive status or prestige. And then finally, at the top of the pyramid, you have the need for self-actualization, realizing your full potential, becoming everything you're capable of becoming. Now, I happen to think that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a really good tool for helping us understand human happiness. You take, for example, the need for self-actualization at the top of the pyramid, the desire to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Well, Maslow's hierarchy of needs tells us that you'll never find happiness just by focusing exclusively on self-actualization if you neglect the more mundane human needs, such as the needs for food or for sleep. In fact, I discovered this hard truth in my 20s when I was trying to be the best of the best of the best version of me that I could possibly be by trying to cram in too many things in my life at a time to the neglect of my sleep. I was working in a prestigious top-tier law firm while also enrolled in 2 separate postgraduate courses at the same time. Embarrassingly, I remember thinking how awesome and high capacity I was that, unlike normal human beings, I had successfully pushed through 3 nights in a row without sleep in order to get some high-level projects done for work, as well as assignments that were due for the postgraduate courses, until on the 4th morning, as I was driving to work feeling like a champion, I fell asleep at the wheel of my car and crashed into the gutter, popping the tyre, but thankfully not injuring anyone. It was for me a real wake-up call that I wasn't superhuman after all. And it helped me to realize something very important, which was that if we break the fundamental laws of human nature in our pursuit of happiness, then eventually those laws end up breaking us. Likewise, Maslow's hierarchy of needs reminds us that we'll also never find happiness in our lives or with our lives if we neglect our basic need for love and belonging in human relationships. Indeed, this is backed up by the longest study on human health and happiness ever done. A study that began more than 80 years ago when researchers at Harvard began tracking the health of 268 Harvard sophomores through college graduation, marriage, war, parenthood, life crises, old age, and death. And according to this study, far and away the strongest predictor of a long, healthy, and happy life was not social class, wealth, fame, IQ, or even genetics. It was having close relationships in your life with other people, with family, friends, and community. And rather soberingly, the study showed that those without close relationships often died earlier, prompting the director of the study to conclude that loneliness kills as powerfully as smoking or alcoholism. This profoundly significant conclusion has deep resonance with the biblical observation recorded in the first book of the Bible in Genesis chapter 2, that it is not good for man to be alone. Part of the reason many are so unhappy today is because even though technology means we're more connected than ever before, we're actually in a crisis of disconnection. There's a lot of loneliness, a lot of solitude, and according to New York Times columnist David Brooks, this loneliness has a lot to do with the lie that our culture tells us that if you just succeed in your life, you'll be happy, or you can make yourself happy. A lie which Brooks says he entirely believed as a younger man, which led him to end up valuing time over people, always busy, always on the move, but it meant no one ever confided in him. And all his friends were work friends, weekday friends. He had no weekend friends. And then he says, quote, "My marriage ended, my kids left for college, and I was left living in this little apartment, just living for work, lonely, aching with emptiness." Brooks goes on to suggest that a lot of people in cities today are going through something like that. So we neglect these basic human needs for food and rest and relationships at our own peril. Now, according to psychologist Professor Ben Shahar from Harvard, the two main ways that people try to find happiness in the modern world today, beyond their basic needs and into the higher needs for self-fulfillment and actualization, it's either through the pursuit of pleasure or through the pursuit of achievement, but neither, he says, ultimately brings fulfillment. Pleasure alone can't bring fulfillment, he says, because of the principle of hedonic adaptation, which means that while pleasure might be able to bring us feelings of happiness in the short term, the feeling of happiness we get from that thing each time becomes less and less and less over time as we adapt or get used to it. Sort of like a law of diminishing returns for pleasurable experiences. And achievement alone can't bring fulfillment either, he says, because of the principle of the arrival fallacy, which means we overestimate both the intensity and the duration of happiness that will come when the goal is achieved or the thing is obtained, whatever that next goal might be. Getting into that university, getting that job, that promotion, that house, that relationship, that celebrity status, so that after a while, we're thinking again about getting the next thing we don't have or achieving the next thing we haven't achieved. And so the arrival fallacy continues and the lasting happiness that we long for never arrives. And as celebrity stories often demonstrate, even that small percentage of people who do achieve the sort of wealth, fame, popularity, or influence that makes a person stand out from the crowd find at the top of that mountain that that sort of success alone is anticlimax. For example, a reporter once asked Elvis Presley the following question: "Elvis, when you first started playing music, you said you wanted to be rich, famous, and happy. Well, you're now rich and famous. Are you happy?" To which Elvis replied, "I am lonely as hell." And that was 6 weeks before he died. Likewise, the actress Nicole Kidman says that it wasn't until she eventually won an Oscar for Best Actress that she realized how empty her life really was. So then that raises the question, what's lacking? Because when we look back at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one would assume that provided we are able to meet our basic needs for food and housing and community and relationships, and provided we are able to enjoy pleasurable experiences, and provided we are able to achieve goals that we're proud of and that other people recognize as commendable and that align with a vision of the best version of ourselves, then we should theoretically be able to find happiness both in our lives and with our lives, especially since we moderns have more opportunities and greater freedom than ever before. So what is it that we're still missing in our pursuit of happiness? Well, could it be that we have too much to live with, but not enough to live for?
Hey guys, how are you doing? My name's Nathaniel and I'm part of the OCCA team. And I just wanted to say a big thank you for watching this film we made. At OCCA, we really love to speak about the big questions of our time and to show how the Christian faith provides credible and valuable answers. If you've enjoyed this film, check out the other stuff on our channel, and also please consider subscribing and following us. It really helps to make more films like this. We also want to hear from you, so if you have any ideas for new content, please put them in the comments below or get in touch with us directly. Thanks goes out to all the speakers, donors, and film team, of which I'm a part of. And actually, fun fact, it takes around 60 hours to make all of these films. And that's because we want to make sure the content is incredibly well researched, it looks and it flows beautifully, and ultimately, that it's actually useful to you. So this means a lot of research, listening to our audience, and filmmaking. Our incredible staff at OCCA who make these films are funded by donations. So if you want to partner with us with our work, please also consider donating, which is really easy on our website. See you next time.